Hi everyone, Anna here, and today's video is to explain to some of you about why I'm not really making the expected mountain biking videos that I've always been making and that I've been intending to make, and to really give a proper insight about what's been going on with my body. It might be useful to other people who've had the same diagnosis, and it might even just be sort of inspirational to other people that are going through their own health troubles. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I'm going to talk about my recent diagnosis of something called fibromyalgia. So last September I was driving down to Spain, driving through France, picked up my boyfriend in Barcelona, and then we drove all the way down to Malaga, and it took about 10 days in total because we stopped off at loads of places to ride, and we're just generally enjoying the road trip. And as I was travelling down, my right foot kept on going into cramp, and it was really frustrating. I was really like, oh, I can't drive, it's really painful, it keeps locking up, I don't know what's going on. And I attributed it to just the extensive road trip and the amount of miles that I'd been putting in the car. And then when we got to our new flat in Malaga, we settled down for a bit, unpacked the stuff, I rested for a while, and then started riding again. And every time I started riding, my legs would go into cramp, and by then it had spread to both legs. And I was just like, well, I'm obviously really tired, I'm going to rest for a little bit longer. So I rested for another week maybe, and then went for another ride thinking that I was fine, and then feeling really frustrated to come back and just be in sheer pain in my legs. And they were solid. It was in my calves at first, and then it spread to my my thighs, and they were rock solid, you know, real tight knots in my legs. So I spoke to my physio in the UK about it, and I travelled back to the UK and had a meeting, and we looked at sciatica, and she taught me some stretches and a routine on the foam roller that I could do for sciatica. So I followed that for about 4 weeks or so, and really religiously, you know, I did a foam roller session, an hour session twice a day, and I did my stretches, and I couldn't really do much else. So I was really honed in on sticking out this routine, and it just was getting worse. It wasn't helping. Oh, those dogs. Actually, my foam roller sessions I found so incredibly exhausting that I'd feel sick afterwards. Like, I'd feel like vomiting. It was really weird, and by the end of October I'd stopped riding my bike entirely, and by November, to even walk to the supermarket or to walk to the beach, which is about a 3-minute walk from my house, I had to use a wheelchair, which I hired from a local place. And as you can imagine, that was pretty distressing for me, and it was at that point where I started to think that something was really wrong. I was like, hey, this isn't just some uncomfortable muscles here, there's something really going wrong with me, and that's when I really started to worry. So I popped into hospital and to my GP, and I mentioned it, and there were some ideas that perhaps it could be this thing called iliac artery something. Your iliac artery is the main blood supply to your legs, and in many endurance cyclists it can sometimes get kinked, and then you're not getting enough blood flow to your legs. So my friend V actually had a contact with the leading doctor specialist on this area in the UK, and I managed to pop him an email, and he replied really quickly saying, I'm happy to have a look at you, but you know, the symptoms don't really sound common with that. And I read up a bit more about it, and I was like, no, yeah, it doesn't really sound like it to me either. Then I spoke to my mum's friend who's a homeopath, and she really did an extensive analysis on my lifestyle and my diet and any medication that I was taking, and I've been taking this injection in my stomach once a month for endometriosis, which is another horrendous illness that I've had since I was 18, but I've learned how to live with that and manage that pretty well. The stomach injection, which is, it's used for prostate cancer, you know, it's pretty hardcore. It's got a side effect saying severe and sudden leg muscle cramp, and I was like, well, that's it, it's got to be that. I started a new round of it in September, my leg muscle started cramping in September, it's obvious it's definitely that. My body suddenly decided no more to this severe drug. So I spoke to my GP and came off it. And then as my endometriosis pain started coming back, I was waiting for my muscle pains to disappear, and weirdly enough they didn't, and actually they spread down to my arms and then even down to my fingers. I had a really low point when I got out of bed one day and I had a pile of washing next to me, and I was just sat in a chair trying to peg the washing onto the washing line, and my fingers were going into cramp, and I couldn't even, oh, it makes me want to cry now. I couldn't even peg the clothes onto the washing line. I sat down and I felt so deflated and I felt so terrified, because really there's something very severe going on if you can't even peg some freaking washing onto the line. So I'd taken out private health insurance for my residency here in Spain, and I decided to use it, and things just got to extreme crisis point. My mum flew over from England to Spain and took me to the private hospital, and don't ever go there. It's called Zanet in Benalmádena, and it was the worst experience of my life. You know, my mum was like, at the very least you're going to have a couple of nights of tranquility, they'll be able to give you drugs and you'll be looked after. And actually they just neglected me in the bed, and I didn't sleep at all that night. I kept on pressing the buzzer and I was calling for more drugs. I'd reached the limit that the nurse was allowed to give me, and instead of calling the doctor she just left me there, and I was just crying, and I was calling my boyfriends, and I was messaging my mum, and I was just in an absolute state, like my whole body was just racked with pain, and I was terrified and I felt lonely. And don't ever go to Zanet in Benalmádena, it's awful. But what they did do was, within a very short amount of time, do a ton of tests back to back. So I was just wheeled out of bed and I had electric shock tests to make sure that I didn't have MS, that my muscles are responding correctly. I had loads of blood tests for mineral and vitamin deficiencies. I was tested for Lyme's disease, because I've actually had tons of ticks. I've probably had about 20 ticks embed themselves in me over the years. They love my blood. Mosquitoes not so much, but ticks love me. Loads of my symptoms are really similar to Lyme's disease, so again we've thought, oh, it's very likely for it to be Lyme's disease, but that came back negative. And the only thing they found was evidence of glandular fever, the Epstein-Barr virus. And I was quite surprised at that, because I'm not a teenager and I've only been kissing one person, so I don't really know how I ended up with that. But I did have a severe fever and throat infection last April, and then I worked flat out through the summer, like absolutely nuts, travelling all over the country, getting up at ridiculous times in the morning, going to bed at God knows what time, and then getting home, washing my clothes, packing my bag again and going again. It was just full on. So the final diagnosis is this thing called fibromyalgia, which is, as I understand it, a dysfunction of your nervous system. It's in the family of chronic fatigue. So I think, along with having endometriosis, which if anyone knows anything about that, you'll know it's pretty horrendous, and then getting glandular fever, and then working like a nutter all through the summer, and then packing my car and moving all my possessions and driving down to Spain, I think my body just went, stop, no more. Like, you are ill, you cannot keep going anymore. And I was really devastated, because I looked up about fibromyalgia and everything's really, really negative online. Like, I even had a phone call from the official charity and they were like, yeah, some people just stay in bed and they apply for benefits, so if you need help applying for benefits, we'll help you with that. Other people, well, they just take painkillers and they push on through the pain, and you know, they're on like tramadol and cocodamol and Coxia and Valium to help you not panic. And you know, really the diagnosis is really, really, really horrendous, and you don't ever get better from it. And I was just like, I can't believe I'm hearing this, and I don't believe it either. And So I did a little bit more research, and I ignored what the doctors told me, and I ignored what the official charity told me, and I did a bit of research about people that recover from fibromyalgia, and sure enough, there's plenty of positive stories out there. So I've sifted through those, and I've sort of made my plan on how I'm going to get better. Now, I know that some people might be watching this who also have fibromyalgia, and they might be in a mindset of, you have to accept it, you have to accept you're not getting better, and for that reason I'm going to disable comments. The very first time, no matter how controversial I've ever posted a video is before, the very first time I'm going to disable comments on this video, because I don't want to read a single negative thing. Like, I don't really care if somebody has a different point of view to me. I genuinely believe I can get better, and I'm focused on that, and I don't want anybody else's negativity to kind of throw me off course, because it takes an awful lot of willpower and mind strength to make my own mind up and to really listen to my body. So yeah, I don't really want to listen to anyone telling me otherwise. And sure enough, I am now about 6 weeks on from diagnosis, and I can now drive a car for up to about 30 minutes. I can walk to the beach and back. I can ride to the beach and back. Sometimes I ride on my mountain bike, like on my full-size mountain bike, just to feel how amazing it is to have the love of my life underneath me. Oh my god. You know what I mean. Anyway, I love my mountain bike, and it's so good even just to ride it down the road and back. A major step forward is I'm completely drug-free. I was on tramadol and then Valium to sleep at night and some other Arcoxia stuff, and now I'm not on anything, and I think that is just a huge step forward. And I do have bad days, and sometimes I overdo it and then I crash and burn really badly. I'm pacing myself. I'm not taking on any work that is too physically exhausting. I'm saying no to lots of things, which is a bit of a struggle financially, but it is imperative health-wise, and that's the most important thing, because without my health I'm not going to be able to work in the future anyway. I've been following this program called ANS Rewire, and it's all about brain training, and it's using loads of tips and techniques that people who've recovered from strokes, or people that have lost a limb, or people that have burns victims, how they deal with pain and how they deal with getting limbs moving again, and all sorts of things. It's really scientific, and it's really about using the power of the brain to relearn new pathways, relearn new ways of using my body without going back to the same pathways, and that's taking quite a lot of daily practice. And I've just taken so much time out, so much time in nature, just sitting in nature. At the moment I'm at a hippie camp that I found on Airbnb just to get out of town, and I'm here for a few days. My diet is pretty incredible. I'm eating 6 times a day. I'm only eating sort of natural foods, and I can't say which part of it all is the most helpful. I suspect it's a mixture of everything. I suspect it's a mixture of trying to get rid of stress from my life, trying to get rid of physical exhaustion, trying to make sure that my diet is really good and that my body isn't using its own energy to get me to do the basic day-to-day things. You know, it's got a constant source of energy that it can use without using my like really depleted supplies, and doing nice things like art and sleeping well and meditation. My life has changed massively, actually. I've got a video that I'm going to share with everybody after this, after I have reached the end of my recovery, which I know that I'm going to get to. I'm keeping a little video diary, but I don't want to share it right now because I haven't even looked back at the clips myself, and it goes to some really dark places. It's very honest, and I want to share it when I've got a positive note at the end of it. You'll be able to see the whole journey, and I really hope that it will be useful for other people with fibromyalgia or their own health issues or chronic fatigue and things like that. So, or glandular fever, my goodness. I don't know why I find it so funny. I just find it so ridiculous. It's like a teenager's disease for kissing. The thing that I miss the most, I think, is the cycling community, like the contact with people that I meet and the ideas and it's just the community. It's been very isolating and very lonely, this illness. My best friends and my family and my boyfriend have obviously stuck by me like glue, and it blows my mind how much love I've got around me, and I'm so grateful. But just those sort of weekly interactions you have with people from the cycling community when you go out to ride, I really miss that. So my bike is still really important to me. I'm really hung up on the fact that I want to get riding again, and that is the goal, even if I have to change my work life or I have to change so many other things, I don't know, but I want to be riding again, and I want to be riding properly. Like, I love cycling around town, which I can't even do at the moment, but I want to cycle around town, and I love that. But I want to be riding enduro and downhill and hitting jumps and hitting rocks and going full speed, and I just love it. I love it. I need my health back so that I can do it, and I can do it to the best of my abilities, and that's my goal. That's what's keeping me. I have to watch this space. If you found that at all interesting, please give it a thumbs up. If you disagree with me, please don't give it a thumbs down. I don't think I can deal with it right now. Go and give a thumbs down on some of my other videos, but not this one, please. If anyone else is suffering, you can always drop me a private message on Instagram or Facebook or something, and I'm always happy to talk with people, but I am just keeping this video a little bit guarded. Right, nice one. Subscribe, then you can see how much better I get, and then I'll be able to prove to everyone that I've got better. Alright, love you, bye. I've just been sitting here and I thought of something that I wanted to add, which is that I've talked about what I can now do that I couldn't do before. Something else I can now do is shower, whereas before I had to sit on a chair just to shower, and I couldn't really wash my hair by myself. Whereas now I can do all that without a chair and be on my own. But I realise I haven't actually said what the symptoms are that I'm experiencing at the moment. So I still have really tight knots in my leg muscles. My calves are just rock solid. But they're not giving me too much pain if I'm not using them. Before they would just radiate pain out, and now they're not really doing that. It's only if I try and use them too much. Sometimes if I get really tired, I get this all over sensation of pain. It's it's on my skin, it's in my muscles. I can't have a massage, I can't really have anyone touch me, it just hurts too much. But I don't have much of that at the moment, only occasionally sort of late at night if I really have overdone it in the day. And that's about it really, actually. To be honest, on a day-to-day basis now, I'm not actually experiencing any or many symptoms. The symptoms just pop up as a sort of warning signal, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to stop now, no more, I'm just going to go and sit down. I've done an awful lot of crying, but that doesn't seem to be in my system too much at the moment. And so yeah, I'd say that actually my symptoms are very low. But my ability to do things before they kick in is still pretty low as well. Anyway, I just thought that I would share that because some people need to know actually what's going on when they want to talk about their fibromyalgia. So cool, yeah, cool, still love you, bye.